All right, sixth grade. We are moving on to chapter 12. This is my favorite stuff because we start talking about algebra, and I love algebra. Okay, don't be afraid. It's so fun. It's like number puzzles all the time. Okay, so in order to start our discussion of algebra, we first need to start with some definitions. So most of these you're already going to be familiar with. Okay, first word we're going to talk about is a variable. Variable. And I know you guys have heard that before. A variable in math is a letter that we use to represent a number. Okay? Then we're going to talk about something called a constant. A constant is a fixed number. That means it does not change. It's constant. Okay? Last, we're going to define algebraic expression. An algebraic expression is a mathematical expression in symbols with at least one variable. So every algebraic expression has at least one variable. Okay? So here we have some numerical expressions. 4 plus 5, 18 times 6 minus 2. We could do 3 plus 7 minus 4 times 25. Okay, numerical expressions, only numbers and symbols. Okay, algebraic expression. Okay, over on the right hand side, we have x minus 3. We have 3 times y plus 15. We could do 2a minus b plus 14c squared, okay? So algebraic expressions have symbols, okay? They also sometimes have numbers, okay? And they definitely have at least one variable, okay? All right. What does it mean when I have 3 bumped right up next to that y variable? What does that mean? When you have a numerical constant, k, hugged up right next to a variable and there's no symbols in between, that means we multiply, okay? We multiply. So 3y is equal to 3 times y. And now, hopefully you're starting to see why we start using numbers bumped right up next to parentheses to show multiplication, or we use this dot for multiplication instead of using what you're most familiar with for multiplication, which is that x for times. Because once we start working with algebraic expressions, this symbol can get very confusing if we're using the letter x as a variable, okay? So you are going to start seeing more and more the dot used for multiplication or a numerical constant hugged up right next to a variable or a set of parentheses to indicate multiplication. So if you see something like 7m, that means 7 times m. It could also be written as 7 times m like that. Okay, so just be aware of that as we start moving forward. Example number 1 says identify the constants and variables in this algebraic expression. 4x plus 3y is equal to 6. Constants are fixed numbers. So the constants, the numbers that are not going to change in this algebraic expression are 4, 3, and 6. Variables, letters that are used to represent numbers, in 4x plus 3y is equal to 6, x and y. This isn't in your book, but really quick, what operations do we have represented in 4x plus 3y is equal to 6? We have multiplication. Okay, 4x means 4 times x. We have multiplication again. 3y means 3 times y. And we have addition. do not lose track of order of operations. Okay, order of operations is really going to come into play as we start moving through this chapter. Okay, but I just wanted to show you again, especially this numerical constant right up next to a variable indicating multiplication. Okay, box skill check number 1 just says identify the variables and the constants in these algebraic expressions. Number 1 says -3 plus h. Our variable in that case is h. Our constant is -3. Okay. Number 2 in box skill check number 1, 7m minus n plus 13. We have two variables. We have m and we have n. And our constants, we have 2. We have 7 and 13. Okay. Now, you've seen variables illustrated several different ways in this textbook. Properties of numbers were illustrated using variables. When we talked about properties like commutative property or associative property, we often talked about those properties using symbols like A and B, okay? Variables are also used to express a word phrase as an algebraic expression and to write equations. So example number 2 is a bunch of words that we are going to translate into a mathematical expression, okay? It says, Reggie is 7 inches taller than Jill. Write a mathematical expression for Reggie's height. So we're relating Reggie's height to Jill, and we're saying that Reggie is 7 inches taller than Jill. So we're going to choose a variable for Jill, okay? And we're going to say J because that just kind of makes sense, J. So J is Jill's height. How can I show how tall Reggie is in reference to Jill? Reggie is 7 inches taller than Jill. So if we add 7 to Jill, we get Reggie. So J plus 7 is equal to Reggie's height. So if we know Jill, we could figure out Reggie, okay? Box skill check number 2 is a bunch of words. I didn't write them down in these notes. Hopefully you have your books open to page 521. Number 1 says, Mandy has 6 more books than Jeff, who has 8, okay? So Mandy has 6 more than Jeff. Jeff has 8. So can I write a numerical or an algebraic expression to show how many books Mandy has? Absolutely. Mandy has 6 more than Jeff. We know Jeff has 8. So Mandy has Jeff's 8 plus 6 more. That is a numerical expression that tells us how many books Mandy has. Number 2 says Bob has 3 times as many stamps as Bryson in his collection. Now, we don't know how many stamps Bob has. We also don't know how many stamps Bryson has, but we do know that Bob has 3 times more than Bryson. So can I write a numerical expression here for their stamps? No, I cannot. Can I write an algebraic expression? Yes, I can write an algebraic expression because I'm going to have a variable. I have something that I don't know, okay? I know that Bob has 3 times more than Bryson, but I don't know how many Bryson has. So how can I show using numbers and variables, thereby writing an algebraic expression? How many stamps does Bob have? Well, let's say Bryson has S stamps. I'm going to say S for Bryson's stamps, okay? Bob has 3 times more. So 3 times S. That's how many Bob has. And I'm going to write that even simpler and just write 3 3s. 3s tells us how many, or represents how many stamps Bob has in relation to Bryson. Okay? Now, sometimes we are given an algebraic expression. Look at example number 3. J plus 7 looks familiar. It's our relationship between Reggie and Jill's height in example number 2. J plus 7. Sometimes we're given an algebraic expression and then we're given a value, okay, for the variable, and we're asked to evaluate the algebraic expression. What that means is you plug in or substitute the value for the variable into the expression to solve for it, okay? So example number 3 says evaluate j plus 7 if j is equal to 65. So j plus 7, I'm going to plug in or substitute or replace the j with the value that I'm given. 65 plus 7. What is 65 plus 7? 72. We have solved j plus 7 if j is 65. So if Jill is 65 inches tall, then Reggie is 72 inches tall. Okay? Skill check number 3 says evaluate when n equals 6. So number 1 is 7n. That means 7 times n. Replace n with 6. 7 times 6 is 42. Number 2, 30 divided by n. Replace n or substitute n with 6. 30 divided by 6 is equal to 5. Number 3, 13 minus n. Replace the n with 6. 13 minus 6 is equal to 7. Number 4, 9 plus n. Substitute that 6 for n. 9 plus 6 is 15. Example number 4, evaluate 30 minus 3r if r is equal to 12. Two operations happening here, subtraction and multiplication. Order of operations says multiplication first. So rewrite your expression, substituting in for your variable. 30 minus 3 times r times 12. Okay, multiplication first. 30 minus 3 times 12 is 36. 30 minus 36 is negative 6. Okay, example number 5, evaluate 7x minus 4 if x is equal to negative 2. 7 times x, replace the x with the value we're given, negative 2 minus 4. Multiplication, then subtraction. 7 times negative 2 is negative 14 minus 4. Subtraction is adding the opposite. Negative 14 plus negative 4 is equal to negative 18. Box skill check number 4. Evaluate the expressions if x is 4, y is 7, and z is negative 1. Number 1, 36 plus x plus 2. 36 plus x is 4 plus 2. 36 plus 4 is 40 plus 2 is 42. Number 2, 15 minus 3y. 15 minus 3, substitute the value for y is 7. We have subtraction and multiplication. Multiplication first. 15 minus 3 times 7. 15 minus 21, negative 6. Number 3, x squared plus 5. Substitute in the 4 for x, 4 squared plus 5 square, so exponents before addition. 4 squared is 16 plus 5 is 21. And lastly, we have 2 times z minus 3. 2 times z is -1 minus 3, parentheses before multiplication, 2 times -1 minus 3 is -4. 2 times -4 is -8. And I believe, yep, that is the end of this lesson. Okay, now you can just work on your homework.